Proton therapy is a cutting-edge cancer treatment that precisely targets tumors without affecting healthy tissue and organs. That means fewer side effects, better outcomes, and new hope for even the most complex cancer cases. And in New York State, it's only available at the New York Proton Center. Visit nyproton.com to learn more about proton therapy and request a consultation. The New York Proton Center. Precisely revolutionary cancer care.
¿Hablas español?
Sprichst du Deutsch?
Kan du norsk?
If you used Babbel, you would. Babbel's conversation-based techniques teaches you useful words and phrases to get you speaking quickly about the things you actually talk about in the real world, with lessons handcrafted by over 200 language experts and voiced by real native speakers. Babbel is like having a private tutor in your pocket. Start speaking with Babbel today. Get up to 55% off your Babbel subscription right now at babbel.com/Spotify. Spelled BABBEL.com/Spotify. Rules and restrictions may apply.
The Stone Zone, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Stone Zone. Well, today we belatedly celebrate the birthday of J. William Middendorf. Bill Middendorf was 101 years old yesterday. He served as Secretary of the Navy, but more importantly to me, he was the treasurer of Barry Goldwater's 1964 presidential campaign. He served as the finance chairman of the Republican National Committee for Richard Nixon's 1968 presidential campaign. He served his country as the ambassador to the Netherlands under President Richard Nixon. Then he served as the ambassador to the Organization of American States, later serving as ambassador to the European Community under President Ronald Reagan. Why do I raise this? Well, first of all, he wrote a terrific book called The Glorious Defeat about how Barry Goldwater's campaign for president laid the seeds for a conservative revival in this country, including the election of both Ronald Reagan and Donald J. Trump. But when I was 16 years old at the Miami Beach Republican National Convention, it was Bill Middendorf who got a gallery pass for this Nixon fanatic at 16 years old. Bill Middendorf still going strong, celebrated as an excellent Secretary of the Navy. I'm sorry that I missed his birthday yesterday, but made up for it today. In the meantime, breaking news, the man who has now been convicted of trying to assassinate President Donald Trump in West Palm Beach in the golf course tried to stab himself in the neck with a pen immediately after the guilty verdict was read in court. Now, most people don't realize this trial was even going on. It's extraordinary how little media coverage this trial, which was taking place in Fort Pierce, Florida, which is the judicial district in which West Palm Beach is located, was going on. After a 2-week trial, Florida jurors reached a verdict in the federal case against Ryan Ralph. He was found guilty on all 5 federal charges, including attempting to assassinate a major presidential candidate. They made that a federal crime in 1968 after Robert Kennedy Sr. was assassinated, assaulting a federal officer, and other gun charges. Still amazing to me that he is the only one charged in this crime. They tell us that Ralph was indigent, that he was behind in both his alimony payments and his rental payments in his home in Hawaii, yet he managed to somehow fly to North Carolina, drive from North Carolina to Florida. And my question's an obvious one. Where did he get the gun? Particularly a gun where the serial numbers were filed off the barrel. Pardon me if I think this is very much like the Kennedy assassination, where we haven't been told the whole truth. It's obvious to me that Ralph, who is pictured in Ukraine, as well as being pictured in various European capitals, who had set up a website to recruit militias, to recruit soldiers of fortune for the struggle in Ukraine, appears to me to be some kind of intelligence asset. But the government rushed this trial very quickly. Most people don't even know that it happened. I'm glad that he was convicted, but I still remain extraordinarily suspicious. Just as I continue to be somewhat suspicious about the brutal political assassination of my good friend Charlie Kirk. I took this one personally because Charlie Kirk had reached out to me after I was targeted by the deep state, after I was charged with lying to Congress about Russian collusion that never actually happened. I think most people realized that I actually did nothing wrong. I was charged in order to try to pressure me to submit false testimony against President Donald Trump. In other words, Robert Mueller and his deep state thugs, empowered by the Obama cabal, as we now know, ran through $30 million and with unlimited manpower, unlimited funding, and unlimited legal authority could find no evidence of Russian collusion with Donald Trump's 2016 campaign. So they decided to invent it, to fabricate it, just like they fabricated the Steele dossier, just like they fabricated the claim that the Democrat National Committee had been the target of a Russian intelligence hack, both falsehoods, as we now know. So it is not surprising to me that I didn't know Charlie Kirk until he reached out to me after that stunning made-for-CNN arrest, told me that he knew I was innocent, knew there was no Russian collusion. He became both a public and a private advocate for the clemency that ultimately would spare me 9 years in jail. Kind of ironic that the head of counterintelligence for the FBI, a guy named Charles McGonigal, ends up, according to an inspector general's report just days ago, giving top military secrets to the Chinese, should have been charged with both espionage and treason. In the end, only gets charged with taking bribes and ended up being sentenced to 2 years in jail when they tried to sentence me to 9 years in jail for allegedly lying about Russian collusion that never really happened. Talk about a two-tiered justice system. So I continue to have questions about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Largely, this reminds me very much of the Kennedy assassination. I have limited myself to talking to doctors who are experts in bullet wounds. Specifically, I've been talking to Dr. Paul Maurer, who's actually been in the Stone Zone, will be back in the Stone Zone, hopefully this week, who tells us that a round of this size, which we are told was a .30-06 bullet, should have left a rather substantial exit wound and a blood splatter. We saw no such thing. Now, he does say that depositing kinetic energy and making all of the classic large tissue stretch cavities, there still should have been a large exit wound. Others argue that it may have to do with the actual size of the bullet, but this is something we'll be exploring more. There are other theories, as I think most of you know, others pointing out a trapdoor under where Charlie Kirk was speaking, some arguing that perhaps the microphone that he was wearing was actually an explosive device, not out of the question, in that we saw beepers that were weaponized as exploding devices. But I'm not prepared to jump to any conclusions other than to say they told us that John F. Kennedy was shot 3 times from the back, and we now know that that was a falsehood. We know, according to the documentary up online by Paramount, what the Parkland doctors saw, that John F. Kennedy was shot from both the front and the back, and that multiple doctors witnessed wounds in the late president consistent with his being shot from the front and the back. We also know that Robert F. Kennedy, they told us the assassin there was one Sirhan Sirhan, a Palestinian radical, when in fact Sirhan Sirhan was always in front of Senator Robert Kennedy. Yet Thomas Noguchi, the world-famous pathologist who was the Los Angeles medical examiner, says in his autopsy that Robert Kennedy was shot from the rear at point-blank range in the left rear of his skull. That's with the gun barrel right up against his head. Consequently, it's not possible for Sirhan Sirhan to be the murderer. And then you take the assassination attempt on President Ronald Reagan. John Hinckley Jr., always in front of Reagan, crouching, shooting from an upward trajectory. There is some discrepancy between how many bullets were fired. Going to the federal documents that I got through a Freedom of Information Act request was not at all illuminating. 90% of the information is redacted. But reading various other books on the subject and looking and doing research online, some people say Hinckley got off 6 shots, others say 8, others say 4. But here's what we do know. Ronald Reagan was shot from above and behind, where Hinckley was in front of him and crouching, would have been shooting from an upward trajectory. So pardon me if I don't want to rush to judgment on the question of my good friend Charlie Kirk. I don't think it is disrespectful to his memory to ask these questions until we ultimately, hopefully, learn the truth. Meanwhile, I think this is fitting and appropriate, President Donald Trump has signed an executive order that officially designates Antifa as a domestic terror organization, correctly characterizing Antifa as a militaristic, anarchistic enterprise that is out to overthrow the U.S. government through violent means. It notes that Antifa members have orchestrated campaigns of violence and mayhem across America, which includes riots, attacks on law enforcement officers, armed standoff, and harassment of political figures. They also recruit and radicalize young Americans as they hide the source of their funding and the identities of their members. The president's new executive order calls for federal departments and agencies to investigate, disrupt, and dismantle any and all illegal operations pertaining to Antifa. This has been a long time coming. I've been an advocate for it here in the Stone Zone for some time. Antifa has always claimed that they were a decentralized group with no real leadership. Even FBI Director Christopher Wray, perhaps the worst FBI director in history, repeated this propaganda when he was questioned under oath by Congress about the Bureau's lack of focus on Antifa. That, of course, is completely absurd. Antifa is a trained, tightly coordinated group with money coming in from wealthy benefactors. Perhaps it is the Soros Network, or perhaps it is some other wealthy radical leftists. But the good news is we will soon find out, and they will be held accountable. President Trump is not messing around with this crackdown on Antifa. This, rather than cancel culture and the wholesale cancellation and censorship of those who hold different political views than Donald Trump, is the correct response. I know that some on the right have favored doing to them what they did to us. As someone who was himself censored by X, then known as Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, virtually canceled, I obviously am tempted to now want to treat those who abuse me the same way, but Charlie Kirk himself put it best when he said there is no such thing as hate speech. That's why I find it kind of humorous when Hakeem Jeffries and Congressman Ted Lieu and Chuck Schumer, and Chris Murphy, the senator from Connecticut, and Zoran Mamdani, Tom Hanks, Meryl Streep, Robert De Niro, Ben Affleck, Jamie Lee Curtis, Ben Stiller, they all objected to Jimmy Kimmel being suspended, saying it was outrageous. I don't remember any of those people being upset when I was censored. So it is hypocrisy writ large, but we're used to that on the American left. It's interesting to me that now, with Disney reversing course and saying that they will put Jimmy Kimmel back on the air, the Sinclair Group, a media organization which owns 38 ABC stations in the United States, has announced that they will be refusing to air Jimmy Kimmel Live after ABC announced that they had lifted the suspension after 5 days. Sinclair said in an announcement beginning Tuesday, Sinclair will be preempting Jimmy Kimmel Live across our ABC affiliate stations and replacing it with news programming. Discussions with ABC are ongoing as to how we evaluate the show's potential return. You see, that's what I'm for, freedom of choice. I wasn't crazy about Jimmy Kimmel. I thought that he was kind of a dirtbag. I do think he crossed the line. This is Roger Stone. You're in the Stone Zone, and we'll be right back.
This shrimp and coconut sauce is divine. What's your secret?
Goya coconut milk.
How does it taste so good?
It's all in that real coconut flavor and that rich, creamy texture.
What about thickeners and added sugars?
None. Just smooth, coconutty goodness.
What can I make with it?
From curries to sweet treats like coconut flan, the possibilities are endless.
Goya coconut milk. Take your cooking to the next level. No question about it. Find it in the Goya section of your local grocery store. If it's Goya, it has to be good.
You're tuned into Auto Intelligence, live from Auto Trader, where data, tools, and your preferences sync to make your car shopping smooth.
They're searching inventory.
Oh, yeah.
They find what you need.
They're gonna find it.
You can make a budget for your wallet to help you succeed. Pricing's precise and true.
So true.
It's smarter car shopping.
Ooh.
Just for you.
Oh, it's just for you. Ooh. Find your next ride at Autotrader.com. Powered by Auto Intelligence.
Once upon a mundane morning, Barb's day got busy without warning. A realtor in need of an open house sign. No, 50 of them, and designed before 9.
My head hurts.
Any mighty tools to help with this plight?
Aha!
Barb made her move. She opened Canva and got in the groove.
Bulk creating Canva sheets. Create 50 signs fit for suburban streets.
Done in a click, all complete.
Sweet!
Now, imagine what your dreams can become when you put imagination to work at Canva.com.
What up, y'all? It's Joe Budden, here to talk about Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to win real money while watching football. You can get up to 100 times your money.
Prize Picks will give you $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Just download the Prize Picks app and use code SPOTIFY. That's code SPOTIFY on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play a $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. Must be present in certain states. Visit prizepicks.com for restrictions and details.
The Stone Zone. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And we're back in the zone. President Donald Trump has offended some who claim to be the science community, in other words, medical professionals who rely on big pharma for their paychecks, by announcing that there are now, based on a Harvard study and other studies, a very definite link between Tylenol and vaccinations to the development of autism. The president held a press conference where he urged pregnant women not to take Tylenol and to hold off on the vaccinations. President Trump said, I want to say it like it is. Don't take Tylenol. Don't take it. He said other things that we recommend, for example, I do anyway, is, but don't let them pump your baby up with the largest pile of stuff you've ever seen in your life. I think what the president's referring to now, this was not true when I was vaccinated, but a newborn infant can get as many as 28, perhaps in some cases as many as 32 vaccinations at the same time. I'm not convinced all of these are necessary. By the way, I'm for health freedom, health choice. If you choose to take any vaccination, that's really up to you. I personally don't think that taking a vaccination that has not been through clinical trials and where the manufacturer of the vaccination has no legal liability, if you have an adverse reaction, it's not a good idea. But once again, I think it's up to you. You see, as a conservative, as someone who believes in health freedom, it ought to be up to you. What I really don't like is when the government mandates that something be done. President Trump has taken straight aim at the vaccination regime, and Big Pharma is not very happy as a result. The link between Tylenol and autism is just the beginning of the revelations that are going to come out during the Trump administration, with the extremely able Robert F. Kennedy Jr., good friend of mine, at the helm of HHS. The medical establishment is no longer being protected by the federal government. This is the first major step towards America becoming healthy again. Meanwhile, Secret Service agents unfoiled a plot to hack a New York cell phone system. This is really scary. U.S. Secret Service agents dismantled a network of electronic devices planted across New York City that could have been used to disable the entire cell phone network throughout the city. The Secret Service also claimed this system was being used to send assassination threats against major U.S. officials and other criminal activities. The head of the Secret Service New York field office, Matt McCool, how's that for a name? Those devices allow anonymous encrypted communications between potential threat actors and criminal enterprises, enabling criminal organizations to operate undetected. Thank goodness the Secret Service stepped in. This is the newly reformed Secret Service under President Donald Trump. Don't go away, because we're going to turn our focus to the Garden State of New Jersey, which could be on the cusp of electing the first Republican governor in decades. Mike Crispi, who is head of the America First Republicans, also very popular Rumble and Real America's Voice host, talk show host, is going to join us to break down the situation in the Garden State. You're listening to the Stone Zone here on the Red Apple Audio Networks.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Honey Bunches of Oats es la forma perfecta de empezar el día con tu familia. Con hojuelas crujientes y miel de verdad que a los niños les encanta. Además, deliciosos trozos de granola, nueces y fruta que todos van a disfrutar. Honey Bunches of Oats es para todos. Toca el banner para saber más.
The Stone Zone, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Stone Zone. Our focus now is on the Garden State of New Jersey. New Jersey is a state that I know quite a bit about. That's because in 1978, I first worked on the campaign of Jeffrey Bell. He was a Reagan staff member, actually an economic advisor, who challenged incumbent U.S. Senator Clifford Case, perhaps the most liberal Republican in the U.S. Senate, for renomination, defeated Case in an upset, only to himself be then defeated by basketball star Bill Bradley. Then in 1980, I was assigned New Jersey in the Republican contest for president. The Republican establishment, headed by Christy Todd Whitman's father and mother, were all lined up for George H.W. Bush. Unfortunately for them, the Republican primary voters of New Jersey had a very different idea, and Reagan skunked Bush in the New Jersey primary, taking every single delegate in the New Jersey Republican primary. Then in it was during the 1980 campaign that I met a former New Jersey Assembly Speaker named Tom Kean, Thomas H. Kean Sr. Tom Kean had been Speaker of the Assembly, had run for governor in 1977, but had run as a moderate Republican. Moderate Republicans don't usually do very well in primaries. He was defeated by State Senator Ray Bateman, who should have won a slam dunk victory against unpopular incumbent Brendan Byrne, but who ran a horrific campaign, only one going on to be defeated. I met Tom Kean during the Reagan campaign, became quite impressed with him. Other advisors told him that he should change his speaking style. He had kind of a waspy, almost Massachusetts accent, having been in boarding schools and had an Ivy League education. He was the son of Robert W. Kean, who was a congressman from North Jersey, a man Richard Nixon once described to me as tough as nails. Robert W. Kean had run for the Senate himself in 1958 against Harrison Williams, Democrat who, like many New Jersey Democrats, would later go to prison for corruption. It was in 1981 that Tom Kean won a 9-way primary for the Republican nomination for governor, but most people shrugged their shoulders and said it didn't matter. He was going to lose to Congressman Jim Florio. Florio had challenged Brendan Byrne for renomination in the previous gubernatorial case, and then Tom Kean won that 1981 election by 1,209 votes out of more than 2.2 million cast. I handled President Reagan's re-election in the campaign 1984. So I know the turf very well, but the state has changed demographically quite a bit since then. I now think it is trending back our way. The man who joins me now, Mike Crispi, who was a delegate to the last Republican National Convention, was one of the leadoff speakers at President Trump's incredible, historic Wildwood, New Jersey rally. attended by over 100,000 people. And Mike heads the America First Republicans of New Jersey, a volunteer organization that stepped into the void when the Trump campaign was not able to target New Jersey. Given its political history, I still support that decision, but it was Mike and his compatriots at the America First Republicans of New Jersey that organized and raised the money for an ad hoc campaign, which brought Republicans light years ahead where the president had done 4 years earlier with an extraordinarily strong showing. Mike Crispi is also president of the Italian American Civil Rights League, one of the most notable Italian-American nonprofit organizations in the country. He ran for Congress previously. Many believe he will run for Congress again. He also has a great show like Last Call with Mike Crispi on Real America's Voice, as well as his daily show, Mike Crispi Unafraid, which is a podcast that you can see with the Salem Podcast Network, and you can catch it on Rumble. Mike Crispi, thanks for joining us here in the Stone Zone.
Roger, it's a great honor to be back with you as always, sir.
So I saw this debate the other night, and I thought Jack Ciattarelli took Mickey Sherrill to the cleaners. I thought it was, first of all, because, we love pugilistic politics in the sense that we like a sharp campaign. And if you're a Republican in New Jersey, you got to go on the attack on the issues. But Ciattarelli had this exchange with Mickey Sherrill, the Virginia-born congresswoman who somehow managed to wrench the Democratic nomination away from the machine. Let's listen to that.
It doesn't matter because I'm going to make sure that he doesn't get to serve again when I win for governor in November of this year.
There's another big difference between her public service and my public service. It actually cost me money the time I put in and took away from my company. In the 7 years that she's been in Congress, she's tripled her net worth. There's another big difference between the two of us, okay? She broke the law. She had to pay fines for violating federal law on stock trades and stock reporting, and the New York Times reports that while you're sitting on the House Armed Services Committee, you were trading defense stocks.
Mike, that was incredible. It was at that moment that I realized that Republicans are on the move here, and this race is looking more and more winnable to me. What do you think?
Well, I was there at the debate, Roger, and it was really unbelievable how much Mikey Sherrill resembles Kamala Harris. I mean, not only do they dress the same, but they both kind of talk the same. Mikey Sherrill repeats her talking points from her television commercials, and there's not much else. I mean, when it comes to running for the governor of a state, you really got to know the state issues. Mikey Sherrill has been in Congress for 2 terms, and prior to that, she was in the state of Virginia, born and raised, and she doesn't really understand New Jersey issues. So anytime there were specific questions, Mikey Sherrill would punt away, talk about MAGA, talk about Trump, talk about Jack Ciattarelli doing whatever Trump wants, and there was absolutely no substance. Jack Ciattarelli, on the other hand, Roger, was extremely poignant and particular and specific about things he would do, solutions for the working class folks in New Jersey. Whenever somebody asked him a question, he had an answer that was direct and specific. And Sherrill, no matter how many chances the moderators gave her in the follow-ups, she stuck to these platitudes and these ad hominem attacks on Ciattarelli. I think voters left that debate saying one person knows about New Jersey inside and out, born and raised, been there his whole life, and the other one is trying to use this perch as a stepping stone, maybe to run for president one day. Mikey Sherrill, it was a night and day contrast, Roger.
Maybe it's just because I'm old, but this reminded me very much of the debate between Congressman Jim Florio and later Governor Tom Kean. Kean had been in the state assembly, understood state issues, particularly the property tax issue, whereas Florio was a federal legislator. He tried to coast and run against Ronald Reagan. Didn't work very well then. Don't think it'll work very well now. I do think that Ciattarelli really hit on a completely non-ideological issue. It doesn't matter whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. It doesn't matter whether you're a liberal or a conservative or whether you're just a non-political taxpayer. I think voters are offended by members of Congress who serve on these sensitive committees, have access to national security information, and they go and they work the stock market. They do what is in essence insider trading. In this case, Mikey Sherrill increased her net worth by 7 times while sitting in the House. I think voters really find that extraordinarily offensive.
100%. I mean, anytime she was asked about it, she would pivot away from it and could not have an answer. Mikey Sherrill made, I believe it was $7 million while trading defense stocks while sitting on committees in Congress that had to do with the defense. So Mikey Sherrill has enriched herself. And then anytime there were topics about what she would do specifically, you can tell that she wouldn't answer any specific questions because she doesn't want to offend the people who bankroll her campaign, particularly on the topic of schools. Jack Ciattarelli had a big moment that really got the crowd going when he said that Mikey Sherrill was owned by the NJEA. That's the New Jersey Education Association, which is a very powerful lobby that owns the Democrat nominee in modern-day New Jersey politics. And that has a lot to do with school choice. And Mikey Sherrill stands strongly against school choice. She wants to continue to fund a system that's broken beyond repair, which is the number one driving force behind property taxes being so astronomically high in the state. Property taxes fund the schools. The schools get their funding quotas from the NJEA, and the NJEA owns the Democrat candidates who continue this status quo. So Jack Ciattarelli had a big moment there where he called that out and took Mikey Sherrill to the mat, not only on her corruption when it comes to how she was making millions of dollars in the stock market, while Jack, an independent business owner, had lost money every year that he served because he ran his own businesses, took steps away from that to run for the assembly, to run for council and stuff like that. Sherrill made millions, and now she 100% shills for the corrupt NJEA lobby that is the direct, specific group that is causing our property taxes and thus overall expenses to be so high in the state and have our education in New Jersey go from nationally ranked 2 to nationally ranked 12th. That has been over the last 8 years under Democrat rule in the state. New Jersey public schools have gone from 2 to 12, and our property taxes keep going up. Roger, it's not sustainable. Sherrill had no answers. Ciattarelli was highly specific on his solutions to these problems.
Yeah, I want to be very specific here because I want to be factual. What Jack Ciattarelli said was actually accurate. He said that in the 7 years that she's been in Congress, that Mikey Sherrill tripled her net worth. So while she was sitting on the House Armed Services Committee, she was trading defense stocks. That's a violation of the law. She, in fact, had to pay fines for violating federal law on stock trading and stock reporting. She actually, because of over 300 trades, that resulted in a $7 million profit. So she tripled her net worth. I was incorrect when I said she increased it 7-fold, but she made $7 million in profit. Her net worth now stands at an estimated $10 million. She bought and sold shares of several defense contractors while sitting as a member of the House Armed Services Committee. She was fined and had to disclose up to $350,000 in stock trades in violation of federal law. People who want to check these facts out for themselves can go to MikeyMadeMillions.com, Mikey, M-I-K-I-E, MikeyMadeMillions.com. It's all documented there. I want to get that precisely right because if I don't, some Democrat will complain that we weren't being factual here. It's clear to me that this race is in play. I was very excited when we had Cliff Maloney, who was the architect of Donald Trump's come-from-behind victory in Pennsylvania in the last presidential campaign, and he announced that he's teaming up with you and the good folks at America First Republicans in New Jersey to engage in the same kind of door-to-door, shoe-leather campaigning to identify and turn out Ciattarelli voters in the upcoming election. This is very exciting. Tell us what you have planned here, Mike.
Well, Roger, Cliff Maloney obviously has been just a really great grassroots organizer for many, many years, a great friend. And now he's, coming from Pennsylvania to New Jersey. We also have Scott Pressler, Early Vote Action, and all of these groups, I got to tell you, that are coming into the state have a track record of experience, and they're all doing something different to contribute to the greater good for Ciattarelli. So America First Republicans in New Jersey, we focus on, grassroots turnout of the Trump voter, the low propensity Trump voter who doesn't get out to the polls except for in presidential elections. That's what we're focusing on, and kind of rallying enthusiastic Trump supporters to volunteer to get the word out for Jack Ciattarelli, for the Trump voter. Cliff Maloney is doing an amazing job of hitting doors and meeting voters where they are at their house. And then you have Early Vote Action, where I have a lot of friends over there too. They're encouraging voter registration. So, Cliff Maloney's been in the game for a long time. I know he's become the master of door knocking, because I've seen him do it in so many different campaigns now for over a decade. We've been friends. So with him doing that, with people getting new voter registrations out there, I see that happening all over the place, and with engaging these low propensity Trump voters, you're really giving the New Jersey, electoral situation its best chance in probably the last decade, because we have all hands on deck, everybody doing their part, around Jack's campaign to help drive the message and drive the turnout. And obviously, Roger, Jack himself has become a really good candidate, strong candidate, aligning with President Trump this time around. They're, both joint and in coordination on some of the most key important issues, such as law and order and curbing and stopping the illegal immigration and invasion occurring, particularly in New Jersey and all the crime there. So I feel really good about everything that's coming together. And obviously the folks out there, the voters, they know how high the stakes are, especially with what we've witnessed in our country, Roger, over the last 2 weeks. Everything that's been going on, the enthusiasm on the ground has been amazing, and everybody wants to pitch in every way they can. Really excited about the team that we have here around Jack Ciattarelli.
All right, folks, if you're just tuning in, we're talking to Mike Crispi, who is the head of the America First Republicans in New Jersey. You're in the Stone Zone, and we'll be right back.
This is the Stone Zone with Roger Stone.
Not just stepping stone.
The Stone Zone.
Leading a business today means constantly adapting. On the Executive Insights podcast, brought to you by AWS, global leaders share how they're making tough calls, testing bold ideas, and putting innovation into practice, generative AI included. If you're looking for real stories behind what's working, this is it. Subscribe to the Executive Insights podcast today, available now on all major podcast platforms.
The Stone Zone, entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And we're back in the Stone Zone. We're talking to Mike Crispi, who is, of course, the host of Last Call with Mike Crispi on Real America's Voice TV, as well as Mike Crispi Unafraid, a syndicated podcast with the Salem Podcast Network that you can catch on rumble.com. Mike Crispi's broadcasts are among the most popular in conservative circles. He's really making a mark for himself. Mike, I think the day will come yet again when you run for public office. I'm not sure that 2026 is the year, but I have no doubt whatsoever that you will answer the call again. I do want to ask you, given the tremendous progress we're making in the Garden State, what do you make of the New York City mayor's race and the fact that New York City appears to be on the cusp of electing a mayor who embraces the ideology of those who attacked the World Trade Center on 9/11?
Well, Roger, I watched last night on MSNBC Kamala Harris, as she's doing her book tour, give a tepid endorsement of Zohran Mandambi. And I said to myself, if Kamala Harris can't even really outwardly endorse Zohran Mandambi, how bad is the state of affairs? How bad is Zohran for something completely different? I have many friends in finance and who own all sorts of types of businesses in New York City. It's where I am originally born and raised. And they are highly fearful that they won't be able to operate their businesses, that they won't be able to charge rent or be able to, be landlords, small landlords anymore, or that they're even going to be able to have a sense of safety as they walk the streets at night, because Zoran does not believe in jails. He doesn't believe in jails, and he doesn't believe in normal law and order and police presence. So it is really an unbelievable phenomenon of what we're witnessing in New York City. I hope and pray, Roger, I saw you endorsed Curtis Sliwa. I hope and pray that New York can make the right decision and get on the right track here, because Zoran's ideology and everything that he believes in is the antithesis of what has made New York City the greatest city in the world. And it is everything that you invoked, the World Trade Center, 9/11, is everything that we have fought against as a city since that horrific day that will live in infamy when people of a radical, hateful ideology attacked our precious World Trade Center in the financial district and attacked our city and our country. So the fact that we are where we're at right now is most troubling to me, Roger. And I just really hope and pray every night that New York City rejects Zoran at the ballot box. It looks like he's having a hard time winning the support of black voters. I was reading this morning that he's attempting right now, scrambling to talk to black voters in the black churches because they believe he's going to be pro-gentrification or something like that. So I don't know if that will stop him, but right now it's looking pretty bleak. If we have even Zoran getting this far in the election, Roger. So I hope that the voters reject him. It'll be a really sad day if he gets through. I hope Curtis can prevail and beat him.
Mike, I want to thank you for joining us today in the Stone Zone, and to all of our listeners out there who join us every day in the Stone Zone. Until tomorrow, God bless you and Godspeed.
Thanks for listening to The Stone Zone with Roger Stone. You can hear The Stone Zone with Roger Stone weeknights at 8 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?